Welcome back. Joe Biden yesterday warned that the West will respond in kind if Russia launches a chemical weapon attack on Ukraine as NATO leaders met in Brussels.
And joining us with the latest on this and this morning's other big stories is senior reporter with the Journal, Michelle Hennessy.
Morning, Michelle.
Morning. How are you?
Joe Biden, yeah. So they're going to respond in kind if Russia launches a chemical attack. What else came out of that? Those meetings yesterday.
Well, I mean, I think that NATO would like to put the picture out there that, you know, this was all a discussion about what they're going to do for Ukraine, but a lot of it was actually what NATO is going to do for NATO. So, I mean, what they were talking about is how they bulk up their own defences. They are sending additional combat units to some of the sort of bordering countries.
Yeah, 4 different countries.
Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria and Hungary. To kind of bulk up the supports there, just in case things spill over and they need the support there. In terms of Ukraine, I mean, obviously, the Ukrainian government is still asking for a no-fly zone, still asking for direct military help from NATO, which NATO is not willing to do at the moment. So, I mean, we did hear from Joe Biden, they're quite strong words that the West will respond in kind if there's a chemical weapon attack on Ukraine. I mean, how likely it is that attack would happen is very difficult to say. Obviously, Obama made a similar threat in 2012
with Assad
in Syria. But what actually happened there was very different. I mean, he said it was going to be a red line issue if that happened. And a year later, there actually was a chemical attack in Damascus. 1,500 people were killed, at least including children. And the response was not a big military intervention from the US.
But you did mention the fact that NATO seems to be talking about what they'll do for themselves, because Jens Stoltenberg yesterday said that, you know, they're also going to discuss how they're going to strengthen NATO's defences now and for the future. It wasn't really so much about what we're going to do to help Ukraine, was it?
No, I mean, and that's the point,
problem,
is that NATO's really thinking, what can we do for ourselves? And it's the same with the European Union. The European Union, even in terms of you know, the impact of the economic sanctions on the rest of the world, the European Union is very much looking at how can we protect our own food supplies and how can we protect our own reserves of fuel and access to fuel.
And how can we become less reliant on Russia?
Become less reliant on Russia and other countries where there would potentially be, I mean, including Ukraine. They want to become less reliant on Ukraine as well because the conflict is potentially going to go on there for a while.
But of course, Biden also has declared, when he arrived at the European Council as well, that the single most important thing is that we have to be united in the West. You know, do you feel that's true? Do you feel that statement is true?
I think that they want and need probably at this stage to present a united front, but I think that everyone is still going to be looking over their own backs, you know, and trying to protect themselves, and especially in terms of the economic impacts of what's happening. Like I was saying, you know, access to food, access to fuel. At the end of the day, each country and maybe each bloc, in terms of, like, I mean, the European Union will probably take quite a collective approach to all of this. Everyone's going to be looking at how they can protect their own interests, and that, I mean, that's going to leave some already vulnerable countries in a very difficult position. I mean, nobody's really talking about how it's going to impact on developing countries, particularly in terms of food. It's going to have a huge impact on people who are already struggling.